Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. We have got another exciting show for you today, all the way from Maiden, North Carolina. We've got David Williams. I've got my David Williams t-shirt on today, ready for today's podcast. But let me tell you, we're creeping up on December the 17th, and that's important for you to know because that's when we're giving away the Nitro Bass Boat. The 2022 Nitro Z18, we've given away. This will be the fifth boat we've given away. We do this to raise support for Well Spoken Ministries and the Bass Chaplain Fishing Ministry and the podcast. And right now, if you get in, less than 100 tickets have been sold. So you got a great chance to win a bass boat, but you'll certainly support a ministry that we love. I am so excited to have my guest today, all the way from Maiden, North Carolina, David Williams. He's the Elite Series Pro. Won on the FLW Tour. Fantastic fisherman. You're going to learn a lot today, and you're going to hear a lot about faith. So stay tuned here on the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast, where faith and fishing hook up. I have as my guest today, Bassmaster Elite Series Pro, David Williams. Welcome, David. We're glad you're here, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.
All right, bro. I tell you what, man, I have never been more excited to have somebody back on the Bassmaster Elite Series than you. I just got to tell you, man, I was rooting for you. I was like, man, I got to get David back on there because that's what people don't understand. You know, you build relationships and people come on and off. And, man, when you guys got back on there, I was so excited. You know, and when I say you guys, I mean your whole family. I enjoy, you know, being around you guys. I appreciate you hanging out with me. I tell you, this year, I'll tell you this story. So we were at Pickwick, and I come off the water. I think I went out and marshaled with Brandon Card, and I was just feeling depressed. It was, I know what happened. Brandon Card caught a white bass, and the last time I fished with my wife, I caught a white bass, and doggone it, I just broke down. I mean, it was unbelievable. I just broke down, and I just started, I lost it, and I came back in, and I was like, I don't know if I could stay here. I don't even know if I can do it. And you called me up and said, hey, you want to go eat pizza? And I was like, yes, I do want to go eat pizza, as a matter of fact. So you saved me, man. I appreciate that.
I'm always up for going to get something to eat.
I heard that, man. I tell you, I love it too. I got my David Williams t-shirt on, man. How about that? I got it.
Thanks for representing.
Yeah, representing.
You're the only person I get wear one.
I love it. It's one of my favorite t-shirts, man. I wear this thing all the time. It's a good deal. Well, man, we're so glad that you've been on the podcast tonight, but one of the things I want to ask you just start off with is tell us about how you started and how you got to be a professional fisherman. Tell us about your journey in professional fishing.
Man, you got all night?
I do. I got all night. Go ahead.
Man, I just started fishing when I was a kid and just fell in love with it. My dad always took me and it wasn't until after I got out of I got out of high school and I got a job making pretty good money, and I said, man, I just wanted to start tournament fishing more. Me and Dad had always fished team tournaments and stuff, but I wanted to do it more on my own, more and try to work my way up. And so I bought my own boat and just started fishing a lot of the like the Federation clubs and stuff like that, and a lot of individual stuff like the more like the BFLs and stuff like that. But it was kind of funny. I'd done pretty well on the clubs and a lot of the smaller stuff around home, and a friend of mine, Robbie Dye, called me up one day and told me his partner had backed out to one of the Jerry Ryan tournaments and wanted to know if I wanted to go fishing with him. And that was a big deal. That's a big tournament. The best of the best teamed up in those events and fished them together as teams. But we went and fished that event up on Kerr Lake at Bugs Island. Neither one of us had ever been there, and it's the first time we ever went. And we went up there, and it was a 2-day event, and we won the tournament by over 5 pounds.
Wow!
And just yeah, blew it away. But we won and it was my first big event I ever fished, and won a brand new Ranger boat and some money, and we split it all up. But I was like, man, this is easy. Well, after you do it for about 10 more years, you don't win another one. It's like, man, maybe this ain't so easy.
Oh, Robbie Dye, man, I need to have Robbie on the podcast too. I'm glad you mentioned Robbie. He what a great guy. So you guys beat up on the Bugs Island crew. Let me tell you, that Bugs Island crew around there, around North Carolina, those guys can fish. All of those people around there can fish. That's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, you roll up and you see Jeff Coble and David Wright together on Kerr Lake. Guys like that. I mean, you better bring your A game anytime.
That's exactly right. Well, so what happened from there? How'd you keep progressing?
I started fishing more like the Everstart series and a couple of the opens and stuff like that. I took my lumps the first few years. It was kind of tough on me getting on the road and fishing a lot of lakes I hadn't never seen. We started off, going to places like, St. Lawrence River and Lake Okeechobee and stuff. They're massive bodies of water. I mean, and you go there for the first time, it's very intimidating. And so I took my lumps for a couple of years, and then after I went and cycled through some of these lakes a few times and stuff, I got the hang of them and started having some better success, and I was able to I came back and fished the opens again. Well, let me back up. I fished the Bass Weekend Series. They had that going on for a while, and you could actually get a classic berth out of it if you won the national championship. Well, I fished that for a year or two, and I actually won the national championship in like 2008, I believe it was.
Wow! Yeah.
And I made it to the classic on the Red River. I think it was the 2009 classic that Skeet Reese, the one that he won. But so it kind of lit a fire under me, and once I done that, I wanted to get back. I wanted to go try it again. So I came out, and I never did fish any more opens. I just kind of veered away from it for some reason. They just always were pro on pro draw, and I didn't like that. Well, they went to the pro-ram events, and I didn't fish them at first, and then I come out and fished them, and I think it was 2014 or something like that. And I came out and fished it, and I actually won the points in the Southern Opens. That first year I came back and fished it, and qualified for the elites, which I spent 3 years on the elites. Done okay, but I ended up having a bad year and got kicked out my third year, but I fell back onto the FLW side and fished over there, and I had a really good year my first year back over there. Won an event and finished like 7th in the points or something like that. Won an event on Smith Lake.
Right, and, I remember that.
I stayed over there
about Smith Lake.
I fished over there about 3 or 4 years, and I was fishing the opens also. And I ended up last year winning the points again in the Southern Opens and qualifying to come back to the elite. So I took my berth to come back. So hopefully I can do a little better this time and stick around a while, and we'll just have to see how it goes.
Yeah. I remember when you won that Smith Lake tournament. Wasn't that on docks? Didn't you fish docks that tournament? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. I caught them on jig and chatterbait, spinnerbait, stuff like that on docks. I caught a few on top water.
Yeah, I remember that. Now you won a BFL at Hartwell one time as well. I remember that when you won that BFL out there at Hartwell. And anytime someone wins somewhere close to me, I want to know who it is and what they did and all the stuff like that. So that's
I won. Hartwell been good to me. I won a regional over there one time. Won a brand new truck and boat over there, Chevy truck and Ranger boat in the regional. But that's where I've had probably most of my success at is on the BFL side. The weekend side of tournaments. I think I've qualified 6 times for the All-American. So
Yeah.
that's been a good road for me. The I've been kind of middle of the road on the like the Elite Series. I hadn't really broke through on it, and I don't know if I will. I mean, you really got to dedicate yourself to do well. Some of these guys, I mean, it's their whole life,
Yeah.
and man, they just stay on the water. I mean, practicing every day, and man, I like to spend too much time with my boy and my family. Spend time with them. When I'm not fishing, I want to be spending time with them and
Well, you got an awesome
seeing what's out
family.
there.
You got an
Yeah.
awesome family. Your dad used to come on, travel with you a lot, in the first few years. I remember him out there, and me and your dad would actually walk around ponds sometimes and look around and fish around and stuff like that. So, and then your son, man, the kid's going to be bilingual. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's learning what is it, Spanish and Japanese or something like, I mean,
Well, he knows English and he's been taught in Spanish at school.
wow.
So he's bilingual in that aspect. But he done some karate also, and they teach him in Japanese. So, but it's just basic stuff in Japanese, just the numbers and the katas and stuff like that. But he's probably got some of that.
That Japanese can help you because you can kind of get him to say, "Hey, why don't you get up next to Taco Ito and just tell me what they're saying over there and tell me what those guys are using," because everybody wants to know what that joker's using. I tell you that guy's he is.
You got to soak worms for like a year or something.
Is that what you got to do? Marinate them for a year?
He soaks his worms for like
man.
Yeah.
Good. Now,
I don't know how you research that or figure that out. But.
I'd love to know what he's saying. I got to fish with him a couple of times. Well, I didn't fish. I mean, I'm riding, how I do, but it was he was fascinating to watch him. All the different techniques that he does and stuff like that. So now you and I have got a chance to ride together a couple of times. One time over at Cayuga Lake, and I believe you were throwing a crankbait that day, and you hammered them that day. And then we got to go on, I still can't say the name of the South Dakota lake. Is it a what? I know it starts with an A. It's got Oahe. Yeah. I never can say it. I never can.
I called it Ahi, but they were calling it Oahe.
Yeah. Oahe,
but it was spelled Oahe.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I think we rode together one day on Dardanelle too, I believe.
Yeah, we did. That's fascinating because I got my little Bigfoot here because you're going to have to testify today. So we got into a real rural section. I don't know if you remember this or not, but I start whooping. I start doing my Bigfoot whoop calls, and I whoop, and immediately after I whoop, we had a wood knock. It went like that, and you said, "Oh." There's your wood knock right there. And it was all you could do to keep me in the boat. I was ready to get out on the land. I was ready to go chase him down. But that was when he had all those mayflies that time. You remember that? It was just mayflies like crazy. And we were, I got a video of you shaking those mayflies off. And I mean, you couldn't even breathe. There were so many mayflies. I've never seen that many mayflies in my life, not in a long, long time. So that's pretty crazy. But, down there, a while ago, I figured out, that was right before. Now, me and you, we went to, we fished that one day, and then we went out to a football game. We went to the local football game over there, and then we ended up eating at one of the what was it, the casinos over there. And we didn't play any slot machines, or we didn't do anything folks like that, but we did eat. And shortly after that, I had to go in the hospital, and I really think it might have been that. It might have been that casino that put me in the hospital. But it was pretty wild. We were expecting to go in there and eat the big, broad buffet and stuff like that, and it was pretty sparse. It was like
there's not a lot to choose from in that part of the that neck of the woods.
That's right. Yeah.
So we had about maybe 5 or 6 restaurants to choose from, so we cycled through about all of them.
That's right. That's exactly right. They had a pretty good Mexican place there, so it was pretty cool. Man, I tell you what, I'm going to let you talk some more fishing, but tell us about how you came to faith, man. I know that you know, you're about, I know that whenever I have my angler meeting, my Christian angler meeting, that I know that David Williams is going to be there. So I know I'm going to have at least one every single time. But just tell us a little bit about your faith journey, how you came to faith in Christ.
Well, I mean, I grew up with a family. We went to church, on a regular basis. So I was fortunate in that aspect. Um, so, and I always got to go, to some of the youth camps and stuff like that. And we had one here at it was RA camp over at South Mountain.
Yeah.
There's a South Mountain camp, and yeah, we had a service over there every night, and we stayed over there all week, in camp, but that's I felt the calling there, and I was probably I'd have to look and see, but I think I was around 11, maybe 12, somewhere in that neighborhood. So
there are so many young men that give their life to Christ. When he talks about RA camp, that stands for Royal Ambassadors. We used to, when in the Baptist church, Royal Ambassadors is a big deal. And there are so many young men that give their life to Christ, at those camps. It's really an awesome, awesome deal. Yeah. And so now I see on your profile, you've got contemporary Christian music on there. That's your music. And I love, your favorite food. You said ribeye and ice cream. I like that. Yeah. I can always go for ribeye and ice cream. So if you got a favorite Christian band that you like to listen to, I know everybody makes fun of me because all the Christian bands that I listen to are all in nursing homes now. And so that's the way they are. So they're pretty old.
I would say, my favorite is probably Casting Crowns. Praise You in the Storms, probably my favorite. Yeah. It's been out a while. That's actually what I came into the Classic with when I fished it in 2009. I had that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I had that playing, but yeah, I like them. But there's a lot of good stuff out there. That's probably my favorite. But
I love Casting Crowns, man. Those guys and girls, they really have some great songs and great music, and it's really cool that I preached at a church not too long ago, and one of my students, when I was a youth pastor, was there, and she said, when we were growing up, you used to always say, you tell me any band and I can find you a Christian band that sounds, real similar to them. And I had forgotten that I had made that claim, but there's a lot of great Christian music out there, and it, very edifying. And
our church is very blessed. I go to a church here in town, Cornerstone Church here in Maiden, but it's we are blessed with a bunch of singers in our we got a couple of people that have spent time in singing groups and stuff like that. But we actually had a service this past Sunday, and they took requests, and they sang 41 hymnals in one service on Sunday. Wow! It was
that's a lot of hymns.
Oh yeah,
that's a lot of singing. I love listening to hymns. I can pretty much worship to any kind of music. I love contemporary music. I love blended, but hymns have so much good theology in it. When you're listening to hymns, it just seems like you learn. I call it there's a lot of music out there. I call it 7-11 music. You sing 7 words 11 times. You just kind of sing it over and over again. But the hymns, you get a lot of good theology and a lot of good stuff. You learn a lot while you're singing, and I always enjoy that. That's pretty good stuff. Well, I'm gonna shift gears on you now, man. Today there's so many fishing opportunities between high school and college and all the different trails that you can fish, and so we have a lot of guys that listen to us, especially a lot of young guys. Tell us a couple of things that you see that could help the normal angler get better. What are some things you could tell them to work on, or some things that you would suggest that they start doing in order to be a better fisherman?
Well, right now probably the number one thing is learning your electronics. And I'm guilty of this myself. I'm not good enough on my electronics. I was brought up in a day of fishing where if something looks good, we went over there and fished it. We visibly fished, what we thought, looked good. Now you can just ride down the lake and you can look. These GPS mapping systems are so good. Like you can just ride down the lake, 65 mile an hour and look on your GPS and be like, well, right there's a high spot. I didn't even know about it. It's a point or a hump or something. That looks good. I'm gonna pull over there and fish that. And that's and you think of that, it's like you look at it just like it's a topo map. We always had topo maps,
right?
But they're so precise now. But if you're not familiar with a topo map is basically like looking at the land, but it's the land under the water. Like you have hills and valleys, and points and creek channels and all that stuff, and it's shown up right there on your graph. And and most of the time, as well as I do, the fish, like to be on the high spots. It's kind of like, I guess, kind of like people. People like to be up high, be up in control. When a fish is feeding, they'll get up on the high spots, and when they're feeling good, they get up on the high spots. And when they're kind of traveling and they're just kind of hanging out, they'll be more down. They're not really in the mood. They're just kind of down there swimming. And but you can kind of relate that to people. You got the highs and the lows. People want to be on the top, and they don't want to be in that valley. We always, a lot of times you go into the valleys, and
that's a great way to explain that. I'm glad I need to be taking notes right now. I'm like, good night. I didn't know. That's a great tip for that. Yeah. What's some other things? All right. So electronics, think about all the things you've seen change. I mean, dude.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's amazing. Fritz has a flasher. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've watched Fritz fish before, and he always triangulated everything. It's like he'd pull up like on a point, and it'd be like, I'm throwing towards that tree, but my boat's got to be setting back towards this boat dock, and I'm hitting that stump under the water, and it's like, and he would be the only person to be out there doing that,
Yeah.
And now, like I say, with the mapping, anybody can see those places, and then you got side imaging, and you can ride over it and see stuff, if there's stumps or rocks or whatever, fish on them. And then we got forward facing sonar. You can sweep that thing around and see fish sitting out there and what they're doing. And I mean, and it's been so quick. Like when I qualified for the elites, I think in 2014 or 15 or whenever it was not that long ago. I don't even think I had a graph on the front of my boat. Right. I had one on the dash. That had side imaging. That side imaging had just come out.
Yeah.
Not too long before that. And I had GPS and side imaging. But that was it. And now you got everything. I mean, I don't know what else they're going to do. I mean, it's like
it got exponential. It got fast really quick.
Yeah.
I mean, it just went from, okay, you can see them on the side. Now you can see them everywhere. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
To think about that. Think about how much more. And what I find is the older I get, the more resistant I am to changing. I'm like, I just want to say, well, let's just create a league where we don't do any of that stuff, or let's just do something like that. But but it really does add a lot to it. It's a tremendous challenge, and guys, have to get out there and learn that stuff, because if you're going to compete, I mean.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it myself. I don't get out there and spend enough time with it. I mean, and it does hurt me. So that's one thing I'll say you got to do to help get better. Probably another one would be to find your own fish. And by saying that, I mean, there's a ton of guys out there that don't do anything but call all their buddies and hey, can you put me on some fish here? Can you put me on some, or you see somebody fishing? There's so many things you can do in these lakes to catch fish. I mean, it's not that hard if you just put your mind to it. Go out there and just fish your way. Go out there and fish your way, find your own fish. And most of the time, you can tell in a lot of these tournaments, like the same info gets out to everybody because everybody will be on one end of the lake. Hey, they're
Right.
schooling on the lower end, you know, or whatever, and everybody kind of gets the same info. You go to the other end of the lake, fish by yourself. You know, it's like, just do your own thing, find your own fish. Don't depend on what somebody tells you because they're probably telling everybody else the same thing too.
Right.
And
that's
but
good stuff right there. That's good stuff. Finding your own fish. I know I've heard Rick Clunn say that, you know,
yeah,
so many times. Is, you know, one of his big things is that he always finds his own fish, doesn't want to listen to the doc talk, doesn't want to listen to how everybody, and that's a, you know, I was guilty of that. I've just, you know, even at the club level, you're trying to hear what everybody's doing. What are they doing?
yeah,
What's they catching them on, stuff like that. And it's better to just go out there and trust your instincts and do your research and do your thing. That's good.
that's right. I mean, you know, a bass is a bass. Don't matter where you go. They're going to feed on basically three things. It's going to be shad or brim or crawfish. Pretty much is, you know,
Right.
what they're going to eat. I mean, they're going to eat them from far as you can go south to far as you can go north. Pretty much. I mean, for the exception of maybe gobies up north, but it's not really much different, you know. But so they eat pretty much the same thing and act the same ways everywhere you go. You just, you know, just do your thing.
Right. Yeah. So what's your favorite lake in like in North Carolina? What's your favorite place? If you know, if we said, hey, you know, I want you to go tomorrow, where do you like to go?
Well, I love going to Lake Hartwell. That's South Carolina.
Yeah.
But I've just had so much success down there and stuff like that. But in North Carolina, probably Kerr Lake's one of my favorite up Bugs Island. I've grown to love it throughout the years. It fishes, you know, fish is kind of my style too. But that's a couple of my favorites. I mean, but when I go off, I love to go up north and catch smallmouth. Man, there's nothing like that. You know,
Man, I tell guys all the time, you know, and I've mentioned that on this podcast so many times. I tell my friends, man, let's go to New York and go fishing. They're like, I don't want to drive that far. And I'm like, man, you have no
worth
idea.
it. It's worth
it.
it.
Really is. It really is. It's an awesome deal.
I
So,
mean, there's nowhere else you can go and catch that many 4, 5, 6 pound fish. I mean, and they have a closed season on them, and they're just so stupid. It seems like too. Most of the time, they're not too hard to catch.
man, I tell you, I love it. You know, a lot of people, they want to go down south. Now, I love fishing in Florida too, but nothing beats, you know, going up north. I mean, it's just amazing. It's an amazing fishery up there. They've got, you know, they're so blessed at being up there now. I see you got a big deer behind you back there, and I know that you love to hunt, and you just got back from Kansas, isn't that right? Didn't you just go?
That's right.
Didn't I see you shoot a big one up in Kansas? Up there?
Yeah, me and I was very fortunate. A good friend of mine, RD, I met him. Actually, he was my marshal one year, my first year on the Elite Series, and we kind of hit it off. We just started talking about hunting that day, and we was on. It was over in Arkansas at Bull Shoals, I think it was. But he invited me to come over and go duck hunting with him, and so I went and went duck hunting with him, and we had a big time. Spent a few days together, and we ended up making it a you know, a yearly kind of thing we do, and we'd go fish together and hunt together and stuff. But he come across the place up in Kansas and invited me to come up there and hunt with him, and man, the first morning on the stand, I got a 10-pointer that was like 6.5 years old. It's in like 140 some inches, biggest deer I've ever seen, you know. And then I sat with him that evening, and he killed like a 10-pointer that was about like right at 160 inches. So
wow,
that was the first day of season. It was pretty phenomenal day to both of us tag out,
man. Yeah. I tell you, I love, you know, I love deer hunting. People don't know that I got a deer hunting bug late in life, and I love it. I spent most of the day today trying to hang a lock on. It didn't go so well. Man,
that's the one he got.
Wow. Look at that.
That's pretty incredible.
That is wild, man. I tell you. Yeah, we don't see too many of those in South Carolina. We don't see too many of those type of deer.
No, I'm afraid not.
Yeah, that's tough. Well, I tell you, the only two times I've ever competed against you, I am 0-2 against David Williams. We did this little I guess a Bass Pro Shop in Charlotte, North Carolina, up there with old Eric Winter. Asked us to go down and fish, take some people out on it was a YMCA camp, I believe. It's Camp Harrison or something like that. But man, it was just loaded with fish.
Yeah.
And we had a bunch of guys on there, and I was out there, and I only had one goal, and that was to beat you and Andy Montgomery. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I was like, good night. But man,
could you imagine going to that camp as a kid though? I think it's called Camp Harrison, I believe.
Camp Harrison. Yeah. I'm thinking about doing some men's events up there because that place was phenomenal. I mean, it was just
they got everything.
They really do. They really do. If you're looking for a good place to go and just have a great time. I mean, the lake, it was a huge lake. And so I had two people in my boat, and I asked both of them, they were like on the camp staff or something. They didn't put me with anybody, that was, that I could hurt or anything. But they said, so I asked them, I said, hey, if you guys ever, fish? Nah, just a little bit. So I was rigging like Texas rig worm. Nobody can do. Well, I couldn't fish because I was lipping their fish. I mean, because they were catching so many fish. I was just down there trying to get their fish in the boat every single time. But it was it was a great, great time. And then at the end of the day, we had like a 1 hour tournament because Andy Montgomery wanted to go home and he didn't want to fish the rest of the day. So we had a 1 hour tournament. It was so much fun. But I think everybody,
probably had a cow.
Everybody, probably had to go do some cow stuff. But I think everybody caught a limit. I believe everybody was culling, and just in that hour. I mean, it was just phenomenal. So it was so cool. It was really cool deal. Well, man, I appreciate you being on with me today. It is awesome. And folks, let me tell you, me and David, hang out a lot together, and I'm very blessed that at least there's one person that'll tolerate me. And
I try to build up his reputation a little bit.
I do, man. I appreciate that. I really do. I really do. And I still want to get down there and see the high school down there in Maiden play football. So I need to get down there on a Friday night. But folks, let me tell you, David talked about he heard the call in his life, at RA camp, and the Holy Spirit of God is always calling people into themselves. And so the Spirit convicts us of our sin. And then it's our responsibility to repent, to turn away from our sin and turn to Christ and receive him into our life. And he'll give your life purpose and meaning. If you ever want to know how to do that, you can call me 864-414-9453, or just go on to, type in the Bass Chaplain. I'll be the first one that comes up, and you can email me, and I'll be delighted to talk with you about how you can have a personal relationship with Jesus. Man, David, thanks for being on here tonight. I appreciate it so much, man.
Ain't no problem. Anytime.
Cool deal, man. All right, folks, this is the Bass Chaplain Fishing Podcast. We'll see you next time where faith and fishing hook up.